Today, we're joined by Natalie Gasson-McKinley MBE MBA, an advocate for diversity and inclusion in businesses and boardrooms. Natalie joins us today for an instalment of our Inspiring Women interview series to coincide with International Women's Day, which has a focus on embracing equity, a subject that Natalie is extremely passionate about. At the start of 2023, Natalie received an MBE in recognition for services to businesses in the East Midlands. As a credible business leader, she's made it a mission to diversify boardrooms and decision-making spaces, determined to inspire other women, particularly those from ethnic minorities. Alongside the many other hats she wears, Natalie is currently chair of OBU, a platform for female angel investors to invest in female-founded businesses. She's also been chair of Diversity in the Workforce at Nottingham Playhouse since 2020. Natalie's parents were born in Jamaica and moved to Nottingham as children. They encouraged her to pursue an education, but did not pressure her down any particular path. After dropping out of university, she found her calling at the East Midlands Development Agency in 2008. Since then, she's worked for the Federation of Small Businesses and earned her MBA with a distinction. In her work with OBU, Natalie seeks to challenge the obstacles that can sometimes hold women business owners back. Hello, Natalie, and welcome. From the introduction, we've just heard that you've recently been awarded an MBE by King Charles. Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a wonderful accolade to get. So on that note, let's start with you telling us more about the services to businesses in the East Midlands that you've been recognised for.
So my day job at the Federation of Small Businesses is championing and lobbying on behalf of small businesses across Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. So the bulk of the accolade was for the work I do doing that. So that's representing small businesses when they wouldn't normally have a voice. Very often the voice of big business can dominate. So my role is to go along and make sure that policymakers, decision makers understand what small businesses need to do well. And then the second part was around some of the other bits and pieces that I do. So I'm really busy, Nottingham girl born and raised, really passionate about the city. So it also included the work that I do with Nottingham Playhouse, and that was around diversifying their workforce. So I chair their diversity in the workforce group, and I've taken Nottingham Playhouse from 3% in terms of their ethnic makeup for their permanent workforce to 15%. And just generally, any business or any organisation that doesn't have a diverse representation, I just try and do everything I can to help them do that.
Fabulous. What inspired you to become chair of OBU? And what made you want to be part of a platform that brings together female angel investors to invest in female-funded businesses?
Well, first of all, Sarah and Claire, if you haven't met them, they're badass. Like, they're just amazing women. They're forces of nature. Their passion is really infectious. So when I first met Sarah and Claire, they were running We Are Radical, and that was bringing together a community of female founders just to support each other, to recognise their wins, to celebrate each other. And that has evolved because one of the things Sarah and Claire discovered when they were raising seed investment funding was that it was really difficult, and some of the parameters around how you raise finance for a business were very much done from the perspective of male entrepreneurs. So now they've evolved that and become OBU, and with a really simple task to encourage more angel investors, female angel investors, to invest in female-founded businesses. And the statistics speak for themselves. So only 2% of angel investment goes to female founders, and of that 0.02% goes to black female founders. And you can't really solve that conundrum without actually encouraging more female investors to take part in what they're doing. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I want more women to succeed. I want there to be more successful businesses. I want more women to be wealth creators, because that is how you get longevity in terms of, your own legacy. So yeah, it was a total no-brainer.
Can you tell us more about your role as chair of the Diversity in the Workforce Working Group at Nottingham Playhouse and your journey to increasing the percentage of permanent workforce from Black, Asian, minority ethnic to 15% within 3 years?
So that was really from a love of the theatre. I'm not a lovey, if there's any such thing these days, but I always loved to go to the theatre. I loved to just sort of like lose myself and immerse myself in what they were doing. And so I joined the board of Nottingham Playhouse and spent a lot of time working with them on risk management, just general things that board trustees do. But along that journey, I discovered that their workforce representation was only 3%. Nottingham as a city is incredibly diverse. I think the current census shows that the make of Black, Asian, minority ethnic in the city is around 38-40%. So to have a theatre in the city where their permanent workforce is 3% just didn't tally. So they were already doing some work to try and increase that, and they were looking for a chair. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. You know, very often in life, I put myself forward for things when I'm like not necessarily sure how I'm going to work things out, but I know quite a bit about equality and diversity and what businesses can do to up their game. So I brought the two things together, and most of what I do is steer a working group. We talk about some of the barriers that Black, Asian, minority ethnic people face. We talked about equity, which is obviously the theme of International Women's Day. So that sense of what would Black, Asian, minority ethnic people need, that's someone who doesn't fit that profile, what do they don't need? And it was just around sort of testing, looking at the recruitment procedures, like simple things, like where are you advertising? Like, is it a place where actually they've got a big Black, Asian, minority ethnic demographic? If they don't, like, there's your answer. So a lot of it was sort of common sense things, but some of it was more around the culture of Nottingham Playhouse, their programming, and because of that, they now have an anti-racist working group which complements the work that we do, because it isn't just about statistics, it's about a journey, it's about making sure that you get a more diverse workforce, but absolutely that you keep them as well.
You have a personal mission to ensure that businesses and boardrooms are diverse, particularly for women in ethnicity. Can you share more about this and what steps you've taken to achieve this?
Well, it's selfish. Firstly, you know, as a Black woman, I experience barriers to recruitment. I experience barriers in life. I have a mixed race daughter who's 11. I want the world to be a better place. You know, I don't want her to experience some of the things that I experience. But equally, I would say I'm in the seasoned part of my career now. I've been in economic development for 2 decades. I've come through the ranks. So actually, if there's a young Natalie out there or someone who is like me, who's starting their career, I feel like it's part of my duty to make sure that the road is much more easier for them. I've travelled that road, why would I not pass down that experience? So it is incredibly selfish, but also I know that women who are older than me, who haven't had the opportunity to take those positions and they've travelled that road ahead of me, you know, why not reach up and reach down and make sure actually they can go into boardrooms? It's incredibly difficult, I think, for women, particularly Black women, Black, Asian, minority ethnic women, to take on some of these roles. We've come a long way, but there's still a lot of stereotyping about, you know, what would be a bold, ambitious Black female can be seen as aggressive, can be seen as difficult. You know, I still experience these stereotypes. I've been called acerbic for having projects done on time. It's like, well, that's what you asked me to do. And, you know, so some of those things that I have experienced, I now take that and I work with organisations and people just to try and make it just better for everybody.
We heard earlier that you dropped out of university. I know that this can be a tough decision to make and one that often carries weight and shame for some people. What would you say to your younger self to help get through that time?
Oof, I'm not sure. I think hindsight's a beautiful thing. I was listening to a podcast at the weekend and it was Mo Gardot who's written this book about being happy. And there are studies to show actually that if you have a really tough experience in your life, they did a test where they were like, would you erase that experience? But if you erase that experience, everything you learned, all the people you've met because of that, they would change as well. So I had such a rich experience when I dropped out of university. Like, don't get me wrong, my dad was really mad. Like, he was so like cross. My mum was really supportive. But I think it was the right thing for me to do. My journey, I ended up having a squiggly career. So I didn't come out of university knowing what I wanted to do because I dropped out. I was just like, well, what shall I do instead? And I sort of felt my way around like opportunities, careers, until I found something that was right for me. And what I have now, I'm incredibly passionate about. So if I had to say something to my younger self who dropped out of university, I'd probably say, good for you, you've done the right thing, and nothing more than that.
What advice would you give to anyone that might be facing similar struggles currently?
I'd say you know why you dropped out. You know the reasoning behind that. You might not be able to articulate that right now, but don't worry. Like, as long as you've been true to yourself, I always say to my friends, my family, anybody I work with, be true to yourself. And by that, I mean, like, listen to your inner voice, like, close your phone off if you need to, stop listening to what other people are saying. And I think if you have that sort of inner compass and that inner peace, I guess, of making decisions that you feel comfortable with, then you can't go too wrong. And so that sense of anyone who's going through that, as long as you know why you've dropped out. The second thing I guess I'd say is have a plan, have a backup plan, because I didn't drop out and just watch Netflix. Like, I dropped out and I was like, I want to, not that there's anything wrong with watching Netflix, but I wanted to do something, but university wasn't for me. I wasn't ready. I didn't enjoy being away from home. I didn't enjoy the pub culture. I didn't enjoy any of it. And I wasn't being true to myself just because society said I should have gone, school, A-levels, university. That wasn't what I wanted for myself. Since then, I've completed my MBA. So, it's fine. So I'll just say, yeah, be true to yourself.
Jumping back to your work today then, why do you think that only a small fraction of women-founded businesses get investment? And what can be done to address this?
Wow, okay, there's so much to unpack there. I'd say a lot of it is around societal norms. A lot of it is around actually what do we do in terms of stereotypes. So how do we perceive a female founder different to a male founder? Is it that we think actually they might have more care responsibilities, they're not invested in their business? There's this sense that to run a successful business, you've got to be doing it like 24/7, work hard, play hard. Like, that's just not true. And so if you look at actually how female or any person receives investment, there is a number of questions that you have to answer. One of them is around, like, how much time do you spend on this business? So for a mother potentially who's got care responsibilities, like, she's not going to put 24 hours because she's raising a child, and men raise children as well. But there's this perception of, will they really be dedicated? It's not about actually, if that woman has got 6 hours a day to invest in her business, like, is she giving it everything? And if she is, then she's committed to her business. So a lot of it is around measuring. So it's around the system is broken. The system is based on traits and characteristics that don't fit female profiles. And the other element of that is most angel investors are men. And whilst they might have really good intentions to invest in female, they might have some unconscious bias around actually what makes a great business. And so you combine those two things, and then you end up having women who are pitching to a panel of angel investors. And we talk a lot about imposter syndrome, but if you're one woman in a room full of 6 men pitching, of course you're going to feel like an imposter. You don't look like them. So it's not about the woman, it's about the environment that she's in. So there's so many factors to that question. So I think ultimately it's about the systems broken, and organisations such as OBU, people like me, Sarah and Claire, we're working to fix that system. And once we get more angel investors who are female, and once we get less female founders who are presenting to a panel of males, then I think we'll start to see that dial moving.
Brilliant. Have you ever felt overlooked or discriminated against because of your gender or ethnicity? And how did you overcome it?
So the honest answer to that is yes. But a lot of the time, I guess there's 2 parts. My younger self ignored it. So I look back now at some of the discrimination that I faced in the workplace, and it breaks my heart that I didn't do anything about it. I just took it. And the reason I did that was because I didn't want to be perceived as difficult. I didn't want to be perceived as, Natalie, she's really difficult. She doesn't like this and that. And that's what a lot of women who are Black women, Asian, minority ethnic women have microaggressions that we swallow, that we take because we don't want to be seen as difficult. So there were a lot of things that happened when I was younger that I did just block out completely. Like times when I used to be in an events team and we had to wear like black trousers and white shirts, and there were 5 of us, I think 6 of us in the team, all lined up. Our boss at the time was quite difficult. She lined us up just to make sure we looked okay to go and do this event. And she got to me, she went, "Oh, Natalie, you look like you work here." And it wasn't until after then I realised the majority of the staff who were in black trousers and white shirts were black, and they were like the catering team. And it was just, it only hit me, I guess maybe a decade ago. I was like, oh my God, like she was being racist. That was a microaggression, and I just took it. And there's been other times I've been at networking events where, and this was in 2010, so I'm not talking like ages ago, but a counsellor put his hand on my bum and told me I looked exotic. And in my head, I'm like, I'm from Nottingham. Like, Nottingham is not exotic. Like, this is just insane. And so, yeah, I have faced discrimination. And how I tackled it then was to just ignore it. That was wrong. I'm at a different point in my career now. I'm confident. I don't want anyone else from Nottingham to be called exotic unless they want to be called exotic. You know, I don't want anybody who's black to feel like they're singled out for what they're wearing. So what I do now is be that voice, is champion, is give that sense of that's wrong. I mentor younger women in their careers to say, actually, you don't have to tolerate that. I'm part of Black women working groups where we talk about those experiences. And I think together we're sort of working collaboratively and supporting each other in a nurturing way to say, actually, that's not okay, and this is how you can tackle it.
As you know, we're running this Inspiring Women's interview series to coincide with International Women's Day. We'd love to hear which women have inspired you, either in your career, but also in your areas of your personal life as well.
Ooh, so in my career, so there's a woman called Veronica Pickering, and I'm really proud to say Veronica is now my coach, but Veronica is going to be the first female Black High Sheriff of Nottingham. She's also an honorary commander, I think. She's an honorary officer in the RAF. She's just been given a medal, which is the equivalent to an OBE in her native home of Kenya. But she's just phenomenal. Like, Veronica she's one of the most inspirational women that I know, in that she gets shit done. Like, she's amazing. She gets stuff done, but she's nurturing and kind. And I asked Veronica, or approached Veronica to be my coach, because I thought, like, I want to be like her in terms of when I'm that bit older, because Veronica is a bit older than me. You know, I want to be doing some of the amazing things she's doing. But when she became my coach, she was like, Natalie, slow down. Like, you've got time. Like, go to a spa, go and spend some time with your husband. Like, are you appreciating your child? And I was like, oh my God. So, and I was doing those things, but she encouraged me to do them more. And I think in terms of leadership, there's often this sense of, we talk about alpha females, and what Veronica did, she allowed me to be an authentic leader. And she, you know, when I say to people, be true to yourself, Veronica did that for me. So I find her hugely inspirational. Claire and Sarah from OBU, again, 2 badass women who, you know, there's so often in life we go, actually, I don't like that. I would love to change that. They are changing it. They're not just like being sofa commentary and just going, actually, that sucks. Like, but that's not for us to fix. They're making massive change, and they're being brave, and they've started a business. So those 3 women are like ultimately so inspiring to me. And I also have to give a mention to Fiona Reid. Fiona is another awesome mentor that I have. Again, another badass, phenomenal woman. But I was assigned, which sounds really formal, but I took part in a programme with the University of Oxford to inspire the next trench of Black, Asian, minority ethnic leaders. So I was given Fiona for 5 years to be a mentor, and she's wise, she's awesome, she's sharing her opinion on things that I do. She very much focuses more on my career, so where Veronica is very much more around the holistic well-being. Fiona's like one of the biggest lessons she gave me, and I share this all the time, is she said to me once, you say I think, but you know, Natalie, like stop saying I think at the start of sentences. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, and this was like our first session. And I was like, do I? She said, yeah, you say it all the time. She said, but what you say after, you diminish that. So just say what you need to say. And so I started experimenting and taking the I think off, and it was just so much more powerful. And I felt so much more confident. So she's inspiring. And then in my personal life, my mum came to Nottingham from Jamaica when I think she was about 6 or 7. So she experienced a very different Nottingham to me. But throughout it, she's never been bitter about anything she faced when she came to the country, and she had some really awful experiences. She's never been anything other than proud to say, you know, she's Black British now. She has, she was born in Jamaica, but you know, if I say to my mum, "Oh, you're Jamaican now, aren't you, mum?" She's like, "I'm British and Jamaican." You know, she's fiercely proud, and so yeah, I have so much respect for my mum as well. She's really inspiring for me.
And finally, to help inspire other women who will be watching, can you share some of the habits and routines that you practice to take care of yourself and manage the stress that comes with the various roles and responsibilities you have?
So I'm not good at unplugging. I'm not good at unwinding. I'm never going to be a yoga Zen master. Like, it's just my brain's just like go, 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 go. But I am getting better at it with the work I do with Veronica to, have the occasional spa day. I'm trying to get off my phone. I'm, like everyone else, I'm really bad at mindless scrolling. So I'm reading more. I hear nature bathing's good. So I've just taken out a membership to the National Trust. I haven't used it yet. I will use it, but that sense of, just switching off a little bit more. But to anybody who's watching, I just say, you find what brings you joy. Do that. Like, don't watch these amazing interviews and go, I'm going to try and do what Natalie does to unwind, because that might not be right for everybody. And I go back to that sense of, being true to yourself. Like, whatever brings you joy, do that.
Thank you.